नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंत। मेरे साथ है कर्नल राजीव अग्रवाल। सर से हमने काफी बारी मिडिल ईस्ट, वेस्ट एशिया, जिस मर्जी तरह से आप बोलें, उसके बारे में हमने काफी बात करी है, काफी डिटेल में हमने सीखा है। सर ने एक रिसेंटली एक थॉट प्रोसेस डाला सामने एंड व्हिच इज वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टू मी। सर ने बोला कि यार आईमेक, और हम ये चीज देखते हैं कि ट्रंप के टैरिफ के साथ यहाँ पर आईमेक की मीटिंग भी चल रही है। व्हाट इज हैपनिंग हियर? लेट्स ट्राई एंड डिसाइफर। सर जी, नमस्कार, वेलकम टू शो।
Thank you, Adi, and always a pleasure to be with you. And
सर
let's get started.
सर ये क्या, व्हाट इज द गेम बिहाइंड? क्योंकि एक तरफ तो ट्रंप आपसे ट्रेड रोकने की कोशिश कर रहा है, बट दूसरी तरफ अमेरिका इज इन्वॉल्व्ड इन दैट आईमेक मीटिंग जो यहाँ पर इंडिया में हो रही है। ये व्हाट्स हैपनिंग हियर सर? थोड़ा-सा फर्स्ट लेट्स
Yeah.
डिकोड दैट एंड देन लेट्स गो फॉरवर्ड।
This was what caught my attention also, and since I've been working on the IMEC project for so many months, and deep into it, so I just thought that there has to be some connection. So just to put the things in perspective, uh, from the week starting 4th of August, that is the last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, in between this India and US timing, Trump announced two tariffs on Indian goods to be exported to US. First 25%, and then additional 25% as a penalty because of the alliance with Russia and buying crude oil from Russia over the past 2 years, and alleging that this purchase from Russian oil is fueling the war economy of Russia. So leaving that aside, the second interesting thing happened was on 5th and 6th of August, the first ever official meeting of IMEC took place in Delhi. It was hosted by the National Security Council Secretariat, and closed door meeting. Only the 8 signatories of the IMEC. IMEC is the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, which was launched on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Delhi in September 23. But soon the Gaza war broke out, and thereafter there was nothing that has happened. But since start of this year, a lot of it has started gathering a lot of traction, more because of events and conferences conducted by think tanks like Chintan Research Foundation in Delhi and elsewhere, and plus a sense that the ambitious transformative project like IMEC cannot be left to be stalled just because the war is going on. You have to find a way around it. So on 5th and 6th of August, this first official meeting took place. You had the special envoy from Italy coming, designated for IMEC, Francisco Talo, ambassador, special envoy from France, country representatives of other countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Germany, EU attending, and plus India was obviously the one. And the sense that I got from whatever inputs that I've been able to gather is that everybody is of the view that IMEC needs to take off, and especially in the canvas which is right now being presented in front of in the entire globe of the tariff threat that has been imposed by Trump. So Trump may have done a tariff deal with EU, but it is not that EU was all happy and gung ho about it. There were severe compromises that EU had to do in that particular deal, but they thought that it is better to do it rather than face backlash from Trump, because EU also has security concerns as far as it's most of the countries are a part of the NATO alliance also. So on one hand, during these 2 days, you had Trump announcing 25 plus 25, 50% tariff on India, and simultaneously the first official meeting took place in which even a high power delegation from US with a guy called Ricky Gill, who's part of the security and geopolitics apparatus of the US administration, participating in it. And that set me thinking, that if this is what India has to face with US, and we are not going to compromise on our sovereignty or our protectionist policy as far as our farmers or our exporters are concerned. So how do we find a way around it? And this was one of the ideas that came to me, that maybe IMEC may be the conduit where we can work around and find a way around it.
डू यू थिंक ऐसा एक कोई ऑप्शन सर दिख रहा है आपको दैट पीपल आर प्रीटी सीरियस अबाउट इट इन टर्म्स ऑफ द यूएस ट्रेडर्स एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ? बिकॉज देखिए, जो भी कह लीजिए, इंडिया इज दे इन लोगों ने इतना टाइम लगाया। चाइना प्लस वन ने एक स्ट्रैटेजी बनाई, वो चली इन सर्टेन सेक्टर्स, डिडंट रियली वर्क इन सर्टेन सेक्टर्स, इट बिकेम चाइना प्लस 2 3 4 इन अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेसेस। कई जगहों पे पूरी तरह से डिपेंडेंट है इंडिया के ऊपर। फॉर एग्जांपल मोबाइल फोन्स दे कांट स्विच, दे जस्ट कांट। वो
Yes.
एप्पल विल नॉट एग्री, सैमसंग विल नॉट एग्री, नहीं करेंगे वो, उन्होंने बड़ा क्लियरली बोल दिया है। तो आर द ट्रेडिंग नेटवर्क्स ऑफ द टू कंट्रीज ट्राइंग टू टेक अ वे आउट? ठीक है यार, ट्रम्प को जो बोलना है बोलने दो, धंधा तो हमने करना है। किस तरह करना है
Yes.
वो सोचते हैं अभी।
Correct. So that is what I'm saying, that now they have to find a way around it, and it has to happen at two levels. One is it has to happen at the government level, where the respective governments have to come together and see how they can work a way around going this tariff, and so that it protects the interest of the exporters. Plus, also you see, Adi, it is also to see that the markets which existed, they still remain flourishing. So at the end of the day, if you cut out a huge pipeline of products, whichever products, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it is textile, whether it is food and agriculture, whatever products, the prices in that destination country will shoot up because the supply has suddenly been cut off. And in world trade, each country has some niche areas of exports or production. So it is not that the Indian products which are being exported to US can be suddenly replaced by another XYZ country. Also, you have to see in terms of a very large content of export is the textile industry. And in textile industry, apart from India, Bangladesh and Vietnam and one or two other countries were the ones which are primary exporters or producers of garments which are being exported to the US. Bangladesh is in turmoil for last 1 year plus. A lot of its economy is in tatters. If Indian textiles also stop going to US because of the high tariffs, the customers in US are also going to face the brunt of it because of the price increase. So when we take a holistic view of it, you have to see what is the way around this madman who is not listening to any rational logic. And IMEC is one project which is not merely a connectivity project. It is a corridor along which so many things are going to be pushed from point A, B to C. And within the gambit, the two big markets that IMEC envisions to connect are India and Europe. India and EU have a large, one of the largest trade volumes in the world. India has already done a FTA with UK last month, which is a very big plus for us as far as our exports, which were being restricted in going to US are concerned. Plus, from whatever we are hearing, unless Trump again plays foul with EU, India EU FTA talks are in a very very matured stage, and if a deal happens, then to fructify that deal, you require a pipeline through which these products are going to play. Pipeline, I don't mean a physical pipe, a conduit. And that is where IMEC comes into picture. Now, why is IMEC important? IMEC is important because it is right now, if we see only the current structure, it has 8 signatories. All of these 8 signatories, or if you leave out US, the balance of the 7 signatories are firstly very have close convergence on strategic issues with India. All these 7 partners are economically viable countries with huge surpluses of sovereign wealth funds, etc. So funding will not be a problem if the geopolitics aligns and the business finds profit. Then IMEC cannot be stopped. The only problem that IMEC has been facing since September 23 is the security situation, because the original alignment of IMEC is supposed to go westwards and northwards from Saudi Arabia to Jordan to Haifa. Haifa is in Israel, the major port of Israel. How did Haifa come about? Because this was one of the trade-offs, or this was one of the issues which was pushed by US as a key signatories of IMEC, basically with an aim to mainstream and Israel into the region, to integrate it economically into the region, so that once the economic integration of Israel takes place, the political and security narrative will be easier to drive. But obviously, the Gaza war, broke all those ideas, and the project had been stalled. So, in every event and every meeting that I have attended in last 4 months, I had a meeting with the EU delegation. We had a meeting, very fruitful meeting with the Italy Special Envoy Ambassador Francisco Talo, who had come for this official meeting. I've had meeting with the German embassy, the French embassy. everybody is conceding the fact that there needs to be an alternate or a complementary alignment to the current alignment that was inside of IMEC. And almost everybody is of the idea that towards the east, you have to have Oman, a port on the Arabian Sea coastline of Oman, which then joins as a spur back to the original alignment of IMEC, and towards the west, retain Haifa as one of the ports, but also use the existing and very well developed infrastructure of Egypt. So you have Port Said, you have Port Alexandria, you have a high-speed road and rail network which is now connecting the Saudi Arabian border to Egypt and going onwards to the what you call the ports of Egypt. So moment you expand the IMEC from becoming a point-to-point pipeline to becoming a broad-based network, where number of spurs will emanate and number of spurs will diversify, and it becomes a general conduit or alignment through which the goods and traffic are going to travel, it will become a win-win situation for everyone. Ultimately, it is not the governments who are going to drive the business, it is the businesses who are going to drive this corridor. So wherever they find profit, wherever they find economic viability, they will travel through it. If a business A finds Haifa to be profitable, they will push the goods through Haifa. If they find Port Said or Alexandria to be profitable, do that. And similarly on the European side, Italy is pushing for its port of Trieste. France is pushing for Marseille. Greece is pushing for its port of Piraeus. So whether all the ports remain as a port of entry to IMF or only one become, it will finally be driven by what the economic viability of those those ports are. So my sense is that this point or this logic is now being understood now at the government level also. Number of high functionaries have said that there has to be complementary spurs branching in and branching out of IMF, and a fundamental acceptance that Oman on the east and Egypt on the west have to be incorporated as a part of the IMEC structure.
This whole new development about Gaza, sir, ये जो नेतन्याहू ने अभी, he's come out and said that we are going to completely take over the place. How do you think this connects with the entire thing? Because the theory is that the Ben Gurion channel is supposed to go through that area where there's an alternative for the upper Suez Canal, which is made from the Red Sea itself into the Mediterranean, and it can go further as a balancing factor to Egypt also. How do you see that whole game?
See, Gaza war is not ending whether Netanyahu occupies it or does not, or keeps doing what he is doing right now. Is also a virtual occupation of Gaza. The entire in and out traffic of anything is controlled and restricted by Israel. The Israeli troops have a freedom of movement and operations in the entire of Gaza Strip. So I really have to think hard to understand what does occupation of Gaza mean going further from what Israel is doing right now. And Israel has made it very clear that occupation is only for military, aims, and it has got nothing to do with governing Gaza after that. So they are not interested, or they have got no alignment as far as governing Gaza is concerned. So if that be the case, how is the military operations which are currently going on for last 22 months different from what they are going to do now? Is a matter of conjecture. They would say that there are high population density areas which we have not touched. Now that would be a misnomer because they have freedom of action everywhere. And in the past also, whenever they have designated safe zones, pushed up tents, etc., for population to move in, those same tents and populations have been bombed and casualties have inflicted. So it is, I'm thinking of writing something on it, but to me right now it's a very misgiving kind of situation. But notwithstanding that, IMEC has to the signatory countries of IMEC plus the potential additions to the IMEC have to understand one thing: war or no war, IMEC has to start in some form. And one of the points of discussion that I had with senior officials was that some things have to start on a bilateral level. Don't wait for the entire project to start at the same time. So India and UAE are already collaborating bilaterally on the virtual trade corridor and the MATRI concept, where the convergence of the regulatory mechanisms have been worked out. Similarly, Italy is saying that Italy would try and do something similarly with Egypt or Israel or Saudi Arabia. So, working on the east end, working on the west end, progressive development, infrastructure, and co-alignment of the rail networks. And the most important thing, physical infrastructure can be built. The most important thing to be coordinated is the digital infrastructure and the regulatory mechanism. That means when the goods gets loaded on the ship from India, there should be no stopping, unloading, reloading of goods till the time they disembark at the port, whichever port in Europe to go inward. That does not have to wait for war to end. That can happen simultaneously because it is got nothing to do with spending huge sums of money. It has got nothing to do with the physical happening of the war. It is the signatory countries whose custom and other officials have to sit and find a platform where all their requirements of clearances, security, etc., are coordinated, and that can be developed. So there is a sense right now which I get that IMEC is now in the minds of the signatory peoples as a viable alternate. The Trump tariff has only enhanced the urgency for people to start talking of IMEC, and there are going to be more and more development that I can assure you. I think they're proposing a foreign ministerial meeting in the month of November or sometime. So if that happens, obviously it takes it a notch up, and it is only a matter of time. So, war or no war, IMEC will take off in some form. Whether it finally goes from Saudi Arabia to Jordan or Haifa, or wait for war to end and goes westward to Egypt and onward to Europe, that's a very small point of coordination.
So you're basically saying that India is funny enough to use the American infrastructure against America now.
I
Basically,
would
it will
not.
come down to that only, ना कि भाई ट्रम्प की पॉलिसी के अगेंस्ट में आप जो alternate बना रहे हो, which is your alternative market to Europe, is another thing that the so-called Americans created. So they can't come out and say कि भाई no, we're not doing this, because that's what they also want. So
Yeah, you're right. In fact,
quite a
IMEC
fix
is.
actually.
Yeah, you're right, Adi. And in fact, IMEC is one of the very, very few points which Trump was very readily eager to carry on from what the Biden administration had done. Otherwise, normally he has tried to cut off everything that Biden had done. But
Hmm.
IMEC was one project that he was ready to take on. It was one of the significant points of the joint statement during Modi's visit to Washington about IMEC. And so you are right. It is funny that America helped India push this project, and it was announced at the sidelines of G20 summit in India with Biden and Modi, fronting this project. And now this might become an alternative conduit to bypass or to diversify American tariffs.
So thank you, America, for first giving us the way out, then putting us in trouble, and then telling us to use that way out.
Yeah.
All right. So, but इसके अंदर one of the biggest things that will come out is that the game of the Middle East, the story of the Middle East for India, the story of West Asia for India will become even more important. Groupings like I2U2 or whatever that we are trying to create between Saudi and UAE and India, एक वो भी कुछ करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, where Saudi, UAE, India का एक joint exercises happened.
Correct.
You're trying to create a small little security grouping of probably the northern Persian Gulf region. How do you see that all coming into fruition going forward? क्योंकि अगर आपका इसमें focus है, the next step will be securing this entire thing. क्योंकि ये बैठे हुए हैं यहाँ पर आपके Houthis and this and that, ये वो, तो उनके साथ आपको थोड़ी बात करनी पड़ेगी. So how do you see India going about doing all this stuff going forward, sir?
So you see, IMEC is one project in which India is at a very good position of advantage, I would say. Why? Because this is a project which is supposedly being anchored by India because it was announced at G20 India, and it is India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Secondly, each of the countries, especially the countries in West Asia, whether it is UAE or Saudi Arabia, or if Egypt joins, then Egypt, Oman, Jordan, Israel, all have got very, very deep strategic partnership, individually partnerships with India. A lot of countries have got even defense and security partnership. Like UAE has, developed this partnership over the past few years. Saudi Arabia has done. Egypt has signed a MOU on defense cooperation, and Rajnath Singh visited Egypt in November 2022-23. With Israel, everybody knows how deep security and tech cooperation we have got. So for India to push this project forward is, to my mind, very viable, because every country bilaterally has a very good equation with India. The challenge is how to push this thing bilaterally to become multi-thread. And as you very rightly said, India and UAE have done something. Now they'll try and rope in Saudi Arabia to become India, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Thereafter, you try and rope in another partner. So incremental, rather than, that's what I said in the beginning, that the sense is you cannot wait for the ideal situation to launch or commence work on this project. You have to start bilaterally, you have to start incrementally. I believe there is some talk going on about a feasibility study already being undertaken by an international consultant on the 700-kilometer undersea connectivity between India's western coast and the UAE's Jabil Ali, etc. Because that is a 700-kilometer undersea link that has to be made as a part of the IMEC. So that work has already, I think, started with one international consultant company carrying out the feasibility study, etc.
We kind of knew this is going to happen. That's why we've been doing all this.
Yeah. So
Seems like it.
no, I won't know about Trump's tariff, whether India was in so much of awareness that this is going to happen, because there was initially, you can say, February, March, until a little bit of April, there was positivity and some kind of hope that trade talks with US will work out. There was, I think, the initial deadline in April, then it was pushed to July. But I think somewhere after Operation Sindoor, the kind of contradiction that came out between the narrative that US was trying to set and the fact check that India was trying to do on Op Sindoor, Trump taking credit. I think that is the point where things may have started breaking off. You saw Asif Munir going to Washington. You saw Modi declining politely call to visit White House. Then you saw many other statements coming from the Commerce Secretary in US saying that you can't be a BRICS member and still benefit from trade with US, etc. So I think Operation Sindoor can be termed as one of the major points where the tariff or trade talks fell off the rails.
So that seems to be kind of the flipping point in this thing. So what would you kind of मैंने एक थोड़ी सी study करनी शुरू करी as I was talking to you offline, where sector by sector, with my little understanding, how can we rebalance ourselves? And the biggest point that comes out in that is that Dubai is supposed to be the center point. Dubai, UAE would be the main place, and we also see India ने जैसी ये चीज हुई है फटाफट we've gone ahead, Oman के साथ भी खत्म कर लिया है. So there's, if the Persian Gulf cuts off, there is this route also, and Oman is very interested to create a railway line between their port and Riyadh.
Yes.
He's spoken about that multiple times. He's spoken about a roadway corridor, a railway corridor. He always says, you come here, we'll do everything for you. Can you help me understand the geopolitics of that region and what are you trying to do with these two countries?
See, Adi, a corridor like IMEC, which is not only merely transporting containers from ship to rail and rail to ship, is definitely going to be attractive to every one of the countries which are astride that corridor. You have green hydrogen, which is likely to be shipped along pipelines. You have electricity transmission grids which are supposed to come. We are going to have sharing of solar power, because there's a difference in peak powers of electricity demand between India and the Arabian desert. So when you have a peak demand in India, the Arabian desert can transmit it to the eastward, and similar to the westward. You have high speed data connectivity links. So, and you will have small manufacturing and distribution hubs which will come up all along the corridor, which will benefit almost every country which is a transit country. Plus you have the attraction of transit fees through each and every country that it goes. So definitely countries would be eager to join, and Oman is got historically and even in contemporary modern time very, very close relations with India. And I also personally feel that addition of Oman will only add a layer of redundancy and layer of security to the IMEC corridor, and it only have positive spin-offs rather than anything duplicated or anything in which you sort of diversify at the cost of losing out on profit or attraction of this thing. So Oman would definitely be a suitable addition. And again, I talked of the security partnership of India with so many countries. India and Oman have almost the oldest military and security partnership with any of the Gulf countries. I think it was as early as 1990s that India and Oman, all the three services, Army, Navy, and Air Force, had started having a very close interaction in defense exercises. And you may recall in 2021 or 22, when Modi had gone to Oman, the port of Duqm, we have been given a slice of the area to establish a logistic hub where the naval ships would, call on base their logistics. So Oman is a very, very big strategic partner as far as India's security and connectivity in the Gulf region is concerned.
There's the second port also. I forget the name. I think it starts from S.
Sarasa.
Sarasa. They're also wanting us to kind of come and do some work there as well and
Yes.
develop the port further as well.
They have asked us to modernize this port.
Yeah,
and,
it's a $300 million program. Yes, sir.
Yes.
5-year program. I just kind of was striking me. So I guess we are in the right track as far as this is concerned. Sir, thank you so much. This was very helpful. I know you're really busy, so I'm not going to take much time, but this was helpful to understand that there is an alternative, and obviously एक जो अंदर का जो the pun in it it is an American alternative which is being used to bypass America, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that, sir. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Aadi, and always a pleasure. And I hope people who listen to this, it tickles their brain, and we can come up with many more ideas.
Absolutely, sir. To the audience, please share this with your friends and families, and of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and contribute towards the channel. Namaskar.
Thank you.